Oh boy, is it that time again already. Pause. Shark, bear. Yes, move on. Okay, pause right there. I can tell you immediately from just a couple of seconds of that footage that this is the music known as Invincible. It is one of the most beloved and iconic pieces of music from the Warcraft lore because it is the piece of music that is associated with Prince Arthas Menethil, otherwise known as the Lich King. Invincible is the name of his horse, and this piece of music plays when he is introducing himself in the introduction sequence for Wrath of the Lich King, and also plays when he dies. Also in the background, that is Icecrown Citadel. You can tell because it's Icecrown Bloody Citadel. It's a gigantic fortress built by the Lich King around the Frozen Throne just after Arthas became the Lich King.
That power is a double-edged blade.
Army of Skeletons, Army of Undead, that's the Scourge. Double-edged blade is a slight and very subtle reference to the fact that swords are very, very prominent in the lore and mythology behind the Lich King and the Scourge. Jaina Proudmoore using magic. These runes appear throughout the entire sequence, and runes such as these are seen throughout places of the Scourge, particularly on Death Knight swords and armor. These runes are used for magical purposes and are activated on a sword to make this magic happen. This is actually a shot of a place inside the Icecrown Citadel dungeon. The boss here is Professor Putricide, the chief engineer of the Scourge who develops very dangerous plagues. And he is found inside Putricide's laboratory of alchemical horrors and fun, inside Icecrown Citadel. Next to him is either Rotface or Festergut. It's probably Rotface because he was his favourite. Jaina freezing herself here is a subtle implication that she's getting a bit more desperate, which I quite like, because freezing herself in such a way is something that usually only the undead do. The music playing now is no longer music Invincible, it's now just more general battle music from Wrath of the Lich King. Jaina here is getting a bit more corrupted, and I'm not sure what the purple hair is all about. That's cool, I like it, it looks cool, but I don't know what it's about. Jaina does have a precedent of hair being weirdly coloured. Currently in the lore, her hair is white with one streak of blonde because of a magical accident, so maybe that's a reference to that. Bone Storm! Now here she's talking about bargains and willingly accepting them. This kind of willing justification is characteristic of intelligent undead who have made the transition to undeath. We see this in Kel'Thuzad, who writes a very long and interesting book about why it makes perfect sense to be in the Undead Scourge. And actually it's very convincing, I was convinced by it.
They recoil at its cost.
Oh, now this is cool. In the middle of her speaking, her voice becomes dark and hollow. It takes on the echo that the Death Knight voice is characterized by. Okay, in the background here we see Sindragosa, the biggest, baddest frostworm of them all. She's actually very famous because she's the frostworm raised personally by Arthas in the opening sequence of Wrath of the Lich King, and who also greeted every single player who ever logged into World of Warcraft during Wrath of the Lich King, because she would scream at us at the very beginning of the game. Every time, on the login screen. God damn! Oh, actually, this is interesting. The sky here is exactly the same as it is in World of Warcraft's Icecrown Zone. The sky with these clouds. It's interesting that they managed to make such a specific reference. Yep, that's a Death Knight. That there is a Death Knight. That's a Death Knight sword, Death Knight glowing eyes. Jaina's gunned and done a bit of Death Knight. That's awesome. You see, Death Knights all wield these things called rune blades. Every single Death Knight has at least one rune blade. It can be an axe or a sword or whatever. But these rune blades steal people's souls when you attack them with them, and they're covered in runes, which are used for the magic that I mentioned earlier. You tap the rune, you get the magic. You tap 2 runes, you get a different spell. It's awesome. Here's her wearing Death Knight armor, that's awesome. I think there's actually a set similar to that in World of Warcraft. Oh! Oh! Oh, that's so cool! Oh my god, that's awesome! Woohoo! Okay, so, right. One at a time! There's Death Knight Jaina, we've gone over her. She's still wearing her staff, which means she's still gonna cast spells. Rexar's main colour is green, which indicates he's probably going to be themed around disease and necromancy rather than frost and combat like other Death Knights are. Uther here is wielding a frosty version of a classic paladin hammer, similar to the one he wielded in Warcraft 3 and the one he wields in Heroes of the Storm. Much like the corrupted Ashbringer from World of Warcraft, this one has a skull on it, which is cool. Skulls are cool. I like skulls, I like skeletons. Skeletons are awesome. Valeera is interesting because she has red eyes, and most undead don't have red eyes, especially Death Knights, which means she may be some kind of reference to a Dark Ranger just like Sylvanas Windrunner. Sylvanas Windrunner was resurrected as a Banshee, and then she possessed her own body to become a Dark Ranger, which is just an elf ranger with cool abilities. We may be getting some kind of reference to that with Valera, because she's the same kind of elf as Sylvanas was, sort of. She's a blood elf, but they're the same thing, just with different coloured eyes. Looking cool there, Garrosh, looking very cool. Nothing really much to say about him other than that he doesn't seem to be wearing his dad's demon tusks anymore, which is strange because he was very proud of them, but that may be an indicator that under the Lich King all of your previous achievements are somewhat moot. I anticipate some kind of reference to Deathbringer Sorfang from the Icecrown Citadel dungeon, because Deathbringer Sorfang is a very important part of Orcish history in relation to the undead in general, and Garrosh is the closest comparison we can probably ever find to him, because Sorfang's not in Hearthstone. That said, I am 100% ready and willing for Deathbringer Sorfang or High Overlord Sorfang to both be in Hearthstone. Please. Thrall, who looks awesome, has what might be a skull painted on his face. If that is a skull painted on his face, then that may be a reference to the practice shamans used to do on Draenor, where if they failed their tests, they would paint skulls on their faces and become exiles, symbolically dead to their people. Also, he's still got lightning going on around his shoulders, except that's really cool death lightning, which is awesome. Also, Thrall's got to be standing on a box back there or something, because Thrall is not that tall. Garrosh is way taller than Thrall. Anduin back here is not undead. He appears to be some kind of void creature, which may be a reference to him embracing the void part of his abilities far too deeply, going insane and being consumed by the void. This happens a great deal with shadow priests who go a little bit too far onto the edge of insanity, and then drop off the edge of insanity into the pit of insanity, where everything is mad and nothing makes sense, and everyone's scared. Malfurion looks really cool with a hood on, and with the blue eyes. It's a shame he probably hates himself now. His weapon here is actually a reference to his normal weapon, which is just a claw attached to his hand, and actually is clearly made out of Saronite, which is something I haven't mentioned yet. Saronite is the metal used by the undead Scourge, and the metal is literally just the hardened blood of the old god Yogg-Saron, who you all know Yogg-Saron. His blood sends people insane, but undead are immune to this effect, so it makes a very, very good metal for them. It drives most people insane, is immune to magic, repels light, and is very, very, very hard. All of the Death Knight's weapons and armor are made of Saronite. Finally, we have Gul'dan, who, interestingly, is wielding a real weapon from World of Warcraft. That is the artifact weapon from World of Warcraft, wielded by warlocks of, I think it's Affliction. I think it's Affliction warlocks. I've not played warlocks, so I don't know. And I'm not looking these things up, I'm just rambling. Him being this crouched over is actually pretty funny, given how crouched over he is normally. I expect this just made him double over completely. And that appears to be... Wait a minute! Has Gul'dan got bat wings? Oh! That is awesome! This is the coolest goddamn expansion they've done yet. Holy Jesus, seriously, real talk. This is the most imaginative and interesting expansion concept they've done for a very long time. I really like this. This is going to be awesome. Also, Jaina, put on some damn shoes! Well, I guess it's tradition. What's happening in the real Icecrown right now? Oh yeah. Everyone's dead.